Hey there, this is Sennpai with WTBGold, and today I'm going to talk to you about the entirety of the Fourth War. Well, okay, in parts. We're going to start with a rehash of the lead up to the Battle for Azeroth. This whole story starts with the lead-in novel Before the Storm, as well as the novellas that accompany Battle for Azeroth Collector's Edition, Elegy for the Alliance, and A Good War for the Horde. Let's take a look at the order of operations and take a look at what's written first in the novel. Anduin realizes that much of the world has suffered way too many casualties in the war with the Burning Legion. He is intent to keep the peace that has been sort of fostered by the joint efforts of the Horde and the Alliance. While Anduin is in Ironforge, Magni meets up with him as well as the other Alliance leaders to talk about the wound in Silithus. This is when he and Anduin talk about the Azerite that was brought to the young king, and he pleads with both Anduin and Moira to speak to the priests of the Netherlight Temple to send them to help heal the World Soul. Now, let's take a look at Sylvanas' plans. She wants to take Stormwind, but she can't just yet. Instead, while dealing with other matters a leader needs to attend to, she plotted. While in Thunderbluff, Magni visits to speak with her in regards to the wound in Silithus caused by the Sword of Sargeras. Magni pleads for the withdrawal of the goblin mining operations, to which he doesn't exactly agree, but makes a pretty good show of understanding how many live on Azeroth. At this point, both leaders know about the Azerite, that the world is quite literally bleeding. They're starting to know the implications that the substance itself holds and what destruction it can cause, and they know full well the world is essentially dying. They both have very different ways of going about what happens next on either side. After the ill-fated summit in Arathi, Sylvanas sets to planning mode for realsies this time. She asks Saurfang first how he would invade Stormwind. After some conversation that it just won't work. There would have to be 1,000 winds leading up to invading Stormwind itself, or they would never take it. They decide instead to capture the world tree Teldrassil. They then use the Alliance's vast network of spies within Orgrimmar to their advantage, by feeding false information saying that they're headed south to patrol Silithus. All reports at this point are showing that they're preparing for a war months down the road, instead of launching an attack on Ashenvale only a few short weeks later. Meanwhile, the Alliance acted on the reports from their spies in Orgrimmar. Tyrande Whisperwind went to Stormwind to aid in planning, leaving Malfurion in charge of ordering those in Darnassus, Darkshore, and Ashenvale. Many of the Night Elves were largely reassigned, with only half the numbers usually assigned to Ashenvale, and most of the Night Elf army sent south to Feralas and then on to Silithus. It was relatively quick-paced as the Horde fought through Ashenvale and finally into Darkshore, Sylvanas all the while hunting Malfurion on her own. The army itself was slowed at Falfarin River as the Night Elves burned the bridges, and again at the beach leading into Darkshore with the return of the fleet, paired with the Wisps forming a complete wall at the tree line into Darkshore. Eventually, close to the shore, Saurfang happened upon Sylvanas and Malfurion fighting, and a fight that Sylvanas was losing. Saurfang threw his axe and regretted it immediately. A dishonorable act from the High Overlord left Malfurion bleeding on the ground with an axe sticking out of his back, and Sylvanas ordering Saurfang to slay the druid. He ended up not going through with that order as something stopped him. Honor, Elune, whatever stopped him, it gave Tyrande Whisperwind enough time to get to her husband and whisk him away, to Stormwind, he figured. He finally makes his way up to the northern shore, looking up at Teldrassil. Sylvanas and Nathanos are both very unhappy that he is not carrying the head of the Archdruid. Seething with rage, Sylvanas turns her back on the two of them. As she reaches the waterline, there's a Night Elf ranger dying on the ground who speaks to her. Dalaran Summermoon ends up accidentally triggering Sylvanas' rage once again and pushes her to decide that if she couldn't kill Hope with Malfurion still alive, then she could kill Hope by burning the World Tree instead of just capturing it. Saurfang realizes how bad this outcome is going to be, and he knows that the Alliance will, quite rightly, have no choice but to come for the Horde. Sylvanas recognizes this too, and orders Saurfang to start evacuating the Undercity and plan their defenses. In Stormwind, Anduin continues to oversee the arrival of yet more refugees into the city as the fires start to consume Darnassus and the World Tree. Gen Greymane rushed through to save his wife Mia and bring her and one last Night Elf infant through to Stormwind. Anduin's final thoughts are a definite shift. We've known for a while he's one for peace above all else, but after seeing Gen's own disbelief that Sylvanas could have burned Teldrassil, he knows that it's time for war. And so ends the War of the Thorns. But that's obviously not the end of the war. The Alliance, again, quite rightly, makes their way to the ruins of Lordaeron in response to the burning of Teldrassil. It looks like the Horde is about to win. Anduin calls upon the Light to do some epic priestly things and reinvigorate his soldiers, and the Alliance is able to push forward again. Sylvanas' answer to this is to use the Blight and raises anything that has died as a soldier of her own. And that's when Jaina Proudmoore shows up. Jaina's been missing for a little bit, but now she comes back on a flying ship and bombs the walls of the ruins as the Horde retreats, making strategic stands and buying time. Slowly but surely, the Alliance pushes the Horde back through the ruins of Lordaeron. It feels like a victory as they enter the courtyard and beat down Varrock Saurfang, taking him prisoner. Finally, Anduin, Illyria, Gen, and Jaina make their way into the throne room to confront Sylvanas, who is basically just told off Bane Bloodhoof for questioning her. Sylvanas then takes a chance to gloat that Anduin's won nothing and lets out a banshee scream, setting off blight bombs and flies off to her gunship. The surprised Alliance leaders then grouped up, and Jaina saves their butts by teleporting them aboard her new magical flying ship. Both leaders make way to their home cities to begin planning their next move. And such is the start of Battle for Azeroth, with each faction heading out onto the seas. That's a story for next time, though. For now, this is Sennpai with WTBGold, and I will notice you next time.